I'll say this, ne? To the designers, to the engineers, to the guys who decided on signing on Bowers and Wilkins for the XC90 Plus Edition, that is a T8 Recharge. The combo is definitely communicating, just like the sound in here is banging. Ha! Guys, we need to stop sleeping on Volvo. I'll say that much, right? How's it, guys? My name is Sammy. On this beautiful commute on a lovely Tuesday morning to work after a beautiful long weekend spent with the family, and I think that actually made this car in particular the best motor vehicle to actually use when I drove up to Polokwane, because I had the whole family packed up in here. I had luggage on days. First time ever in a test car, I had to use the third row of seats, and I mean, like, my little brother's like what, 1.6 compared to me, I'm like 1.75, and yeah, he fit comfortably. And you know, the unfortunate thing is that we could only extend just one of the seats because the boot was literally that packed. I know that this car, the XC90, takes about 640 liters when the third row of seats is lying flat down. But yeah, it got to a point where we couldn't do more than that, but the car actually handled properly. And I think one of my biggest fears, especially with 7-seaters where you're actually using the third row seat, is that essentially you start feeling like the car is heavy in a way when you're driving. I didn't experience that in this, you know. I know that I thought that, you know, I was going to keep this review a tad short, because essentially what you get in the XC60 is what you get in here in the XC90, except that with this one you get an extra row of seat. Now, I had the XC60 T8 Recharge, which is also a plug-in hybrid, much the same as this one, virtually about a week and a half ago. Like there's been about a week and a half. Yeah, so I had the XC60 T8 Recharge about a week and a half ago, and swap out completely with the XC90. And I'll tell you this, you know what, it took me a day to climatize into this car, because it is slightly bigger than the XC60. But once you get comfortable, it's, yeah, I feel like a dad now. Funny enough, funny thing. I know that my older brother called this like the ultimate dad car. I mean, like, he looked at it and was like, I might actually consider this. This is actually quite a nice trim. And honestly speaking, I cannot fault Volvo. From a personal perspective, I feel like their cars are actually quite well built. I feel like their cars are actually built to outlast even us. Like, to an extent where I know a friend of mine whose daughter is actually the one that's actually driving his XC90, funny enough, and he's very comfortable to actually do that. I think the cars themselves are actually built to last out of everything. Look, and there might be chit chat. I know that I've actually spoken to quite a number of the motoring guys as well with regards to what they felt about this car. Personally, I've got, I think, 1 or 2 gripes with it, outside of everything else, right? Number one, the instrument cluster, right? You literally get about 2 segments out of it. The one side is a rev counter, and then the other side is essentially gives you your drive modes, and you get to see exactly where you are. And that's if you put the car in full hybrid mode. Whether you are applying power, like for example, if you're out driving on, you know, on the highway or the freeway, or the car is actually recouping some of the power, some of the energy back. And it's the same thing as in the XC60, right? And then you get your range on both the the batteries and on your petrol tank, and that's it. Now, if you have location settings switched on this car, you also get, sorry, I'm just shutting down the seat warmers for my passenger seat. Yeah, that's another cool thing about this car. You actually get seat warmers for both driver and passenger side and the next row of seats. So the next row of seats actually has seat warmers and coolers as well on it. Yeah, back to the instrument cluster. Now, if you have location settings on, you actually get to see your map around where you're navigating. Unfortunately, because I'm a privacy junkie, I really like being finicky with regards to who I'm giving access to in that regard. It's a blank screen. It's all black. There's nothing on there, really. And, you know, in one sense, you might feel like, okay, cool, they might have, you know, oversimplified it, you know, give me a bit of options. You can't really scroll through on the multifunctional steering wheel to like select different modes on the actual instrument cluster as well. I mean, like, that's it. Really, that's it. Yeah, I think maybe that's what Volvo is gunning for, like a no fuss, no complication type of setup. Because even with the fronts, like the front side of the car, you get a really clean look, you know. Closing the shutter here and on the center console, it basically has like a wood contrast, and that's another thing that I have a gripe with the fact that the wood from the smaller tray versus the big tray doesn't seem to match. Yeah, I mean, like from the big tray, it matches with the rest of the car, but from the smaller one, there's a bit of contrast there. Volvo, what happened there? Like, what happened, Keegan? Yeah, right. Now, as much as this is a plug-in hybrid, I really like how manufacturers have actually delved down to work on the efficiency of their cars, because this plug-in hybrid does not move like a plug-in hybrid. When somebody says plug-in hybrid, you might expect that, you know what, it's going to be slow, it's going to be clunky, because of the batteries and the combustion engine. It's quite heavy, you know, but it doesn't move like it. I mean, like, if you put your foot down, it does actually sprint, because the electric motors, well, I've had it in hybrid mode most of the time, but yeah, the hybrid mode actually kicks in or takes preferences most of the time when you're driving. I can creep out of the house without even waking up the entire house. Like, that's how quiet this thing is. And a lot of the times it cuts out the combustion engine in favor of the electric motors, and that's actually one thing that I actually appreciate, because now your efficiency also goes up. Love that. Love that. No. I just saw an older generation Suzuki Grand Vitara that looks like a Range Rover. I don't know how I should feel about that. But yeah, anyways. So yeah, here we are on Winima Dickinsella Drive. Now, when you're driving from the N1 going in towards Sandton, it's kind of like a downhill most of the way. So in this case, this car will actually try to recoup quite a bit of energy back into the batteries. And that's actually one thing that I actually loved about the XC60 and this one. I mean, like, yeah, the petrol engine will actually kick in when you need that little oomph, but it will try to prioritize the electric motors more than anything, which is actually quite grand, to be honest. It does a lot by actually saving me quite a bit of penny, like on the fuel. But yeah, I honestly genuinely appreciate that. Let's talk about the fuel economy of this 2-liter turbocharged e-drive, or Drive E. It's a Drive E engine. So the Drive E is essentially that. It's the electric / combustion combo. Because of a lot of times when the car actually tries to switch in between the electric motors and the combustion engine, depending on what's needed at the time, you might feel that, you know, the engine comes in quite a lot or quite often. But it doesn't actually happen when you actually have a full charge on the batteries. Now, I can actually go into the actual center console and actually switch it off, driving dynamics, and literally just switches to power. All right. Also, now power mode actually switches on the car fully to combustion mode, to like full on combustion mode, and it becomes sportier. You also get pure, which is just pure electric. It doesn't try to hamper with the combustion engine unless you actually don't have any range left on the batteries. So obviously, inner city driving, personally for me, I'll do hybrid, and it would try to recoup as much as possible into the batteries. And that might annoy some people because now they feel like, it cuts out and in and out quite often. And that's essentially like what you have to deal with when you're dealing with a plug-in hybrid. It essentially just wants to actually prioritize efficiency more than anything. Yeah. Having said all of that, honestly, I feel like the split between the XC90 and the XC60 is an age factor. The 60 is more for the younger family that are starting out, that are looking for a better alternative outside of the German brands. And the XC90, I feel like it's more geared towards the more established families that are looking for more space, from a bigger versatility 7-seater SUV. Both are great cars in my books. I'm personally leaning towards the XC90 more so because it also doesn't feel like how heavy that it is. I feel like Volvo has actually like put in a lot of effort in this car to such a point that, yeah, it's just a beautiful drive through and through. I don't know. You let me know.